Okay, in this lifetime. Okay, so basically the question is, how much of who we are or who we become in this lifetime is determined by our previous karma, and how much of it comes in this life? Well, it's kind of a mixture. So our karma determines the circumstances into which we're born, and part of that would also be our genetics. So she was talking about this this National Geographic special that I participated in with Tai Anmin and Tai Vintan. It's on the National Geographic Channel website. So they tested us for this gene called the warrior gene, which is associated, if you have that gene and you have a messed up, violent childhood, you are much more likely to become violent yourself. But the interesting thing was, all three of us monks have this warrior gene.
I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, neither did we. I started laughing. They had a genetic, we were in this room, it was filmed in here in the Buddha Hall, and the genetic counselor said, well, all three of you have the gene. I started laughing, and he said, you're laughing, why? I said, I think it's hilarious that 3 Buddhist monks have the warrior gene. Interestingly, though, all of us have a bit of a background in martial arts, all 3 of us. I think the other way that this gene plays out, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but I think the other way that this gene plays out, and this National Geographic special pointed it out, is that some people, if they have a stable childhood, well, maybe that gene, it might be associated with risk-taking. So they looked at a man who had been a Navy SEAL, so he had, violence in his past as an adult, but when he left the military, he became a very successful entrepreneur. So maybe that gene was part of what led him to take the risk, the financial risk, to start his own company. And then look at, well, I don't know, particularly for Most Venerable Vintan, it's kind of normal in Vietnam to become a monk. But then, for someone like me who doesn't even come from a background, I've taken lots of risks with my life in terms of changing, well, not really changing religions, but coming to the Dharma, taking the leap to become a monk. So I'm kind of a risk taker myself, to a certain extent. So my point is that though part of our karma then is our genetic code as well. All of the circumstances of our life are determined initially by that previous karma. But then remember, who we are is not a static, unchanging thing. So our personality is in fact changing over time. And part of the reason for that is, again, like with the rest of our karma, it isn't just what happens to us, it's how we respond. So we might have certain tendencies to respond in different ways, but we all probably have the experience of maybe there's someone in our lives who we know has this consistent tendency to respond in a particular way to particular kinds of situations, and then all of a sudden one day they do something different and surprise us. That person who gets angry all the time, suddenly one day just stops. They do something wrong, and instead of getting angry and defensive, they stop and they're just like, I'm sorry. And you kind of go, what? So it's not that we're stuck in a pattern. Karma is not fate. We're not on like railroad tracks that we can't get off of. So we have this ability to change. So it's also how we respond, and how we respond can change over time. I really think what happens is we go through all of these different lifetimes, around and around and around again, and at some point the mind gets tired. Maybe we can't articulate it, we can't explain it, but on some level we start to see that our normal pattern of like taking a hammer and hitting ourselves on the head, oh wait, this isn't making me happy. Maybe I should try something else. So we put the hammer down and we try something else. I think this is really what happens. And so it's not just what we're born with, it's how we respond to what we're born with. Right? And just because you have this particular gene and you have a messed up childhood does not mean that you will become a violent person as an adult. Just statistically, you're more likely to become violent later in life. Yeah. So it's also, it's a whole host of factors, but it's partly what we choose. We have choice. Good question, thank you. Yes.
Were you randomly selected, or did they just test it when you do it? Because they came up with certain results. I think it kind of, from an empirical standpoint, it seems like they're trying to say something. So did they just make you or were other people tested also, other monks?
No, we were the only monks tested. They also tested for this gene some bikers, like...
Yeah, no, I saw the thing. That's why I was wondering.
Yeah.
So many monks here, they picked 3 of you, and all of them happen to have the gene, so it kind of, to me, it's like it's trying to support their thing that you can control yourself.
Well, that was the point they were making, that just because you have this gene, you're not locked into a particular path in life. But it was really just chance that all 3 of us have the gene. Statistically speaking...
It was random. It's not like they tested
It was random, no. It wasn't like they tested a whole bunch of people and they picked some people who have the gene. They really just tested the 3 of us. Yeah.
How did they find our temple? Our resilience.
How did they find our temple? Okay, the National Geographic people, if I remember correctly, I'm really not sure. I think they just said that they decided that they wanted to test some Buddhist monks, because who would you think would definitely not have the warrior gene, right? Buddhist monks. So maybe they just looked in a phone book, or somebody around here knew the temple connected with the production. I'm not quite sure how they found this specific temple. I don't remember. Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. It was interesting.
Sometimes the TV, the channel, the PBS, they show in the Thailand or Myanmar too.
PBS?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they show programs from all over the world and everything, yeah. Yeah, they're really good.
They show a short program in the Tibet too.
Yeah, there's some Buddhist stuff on TV occasionally as well.
Can I have a suggestion?
Yes.
So when people give their suggestion,
Mhm.
will you please speak clearly and louder so people can hear and share your idea? Otherwise, you will fall asleep because you can't hear anything.
Okay, you can't hear? Okay, I'll try to be better about repeating what people are saying.
Yeah, especially people who sit in front and you turn your back to the people in the back here, you cannot hear anything.
Okay.
That's why I usually sit in the back, so when I talk, people can hear me.
Okay. Maybe next time we'll get out another microphone, we'll try that. But we had a microphone for the camera, for the second camera, but then people would take the microphone and they'd put it down and they wouldn't use the microphone. So we'll try and get a second microphone out next time. Okay. Let me double check the time here. Okay, so it's 3:50.